What's up everyone on the internet? Thank you for making this video part today. I'm so excited to upload this one for you guys because of this video we'll be taking a look at a series that I have been dying to watch and I've been waiting a long time to see if Disney was ever going to make a Star Wars anime, and here we are. We're going to be talking about Star Wars Visions. So this has been a long time coming for both Star Wars and anime fans, as we have all been waiting on whether or not Disney would ever make an anime series set in a galaxy far, far away. And our prayers were finally answered when Disney announced a year ago that it was going to be making its first ever anime series set in the Star Wars universe. But anyway, Star Wars Visions was released about a week ago and is actually an anime anthology series where you have several different anime studios working on their own individual Star Wars story. And what I love about this series is how each individual studio has full freedom of whatever kind of story they want to tell and how they want to present it, which means they're not shackled by canon, giving you full freedom to see different types of Star Wars stories and at the same time giving you a chance to sample different types of anime art styles. This also makes this series perfect for getting people to watch anime in general, where you have a popular franchise that everyone knows and loves that also serves as a gateway into watching anime. And some of the studios that made these episodes also made some of my favorite anime like Batman Ninja, Psycho Pass, Japan Sings 2020, and The Rising of the Shield Hero. Now, even though I was very excited for this series, one of the things that sort of bothered me was how each episode has their own different runtime, where the shortest episode clocks in at around 13 minutes while the longest episode is about 22 minutes long, which caught me by surprise when I woke up one morning and found out that all the episodes were released on day one. As opposed to sticking to their weekly schedule, Disney Plus decided to take a page from Netflix. But when I saw that each episode varied in length, it makes perfect sense why Disney released all the episodes at once. Because it doesn't seem right if you have one week where you get a 22-minute episode and then you have to wait an entire week for another episode that's only 13 minutes long. Man, I really wish that all the episodes were 22 minutes long, because originally I planned on this series running its course into November, but I guess we'll just watch all the episodes right now and make a video. With that being said, I figured if I'm going to be talking about this series, I might as well talk about each individual episode, given that they're all separate from one another and have their own strengths and weaknesses. So episode 1, The Duel, is a great way to introduce the series, as you get a perfect homage to Kurosawa films like Seven Samurai, where you have this noir black and white gritty setting and the only source of color is coming from blaster bolts and lightsabers. And one of the things that I liked about that particular episode is how it really does have that really gritty feeling that makes you feel like that this episode could be an R-rated film, where you have this Ronin warrior who just walks into town just before stuff starts to go down, where you have him go up against pretty much like an army of bad guys. Another thing that I also liked about that episode is how, even though it uses a lot of 3D animation, the way it's shot makes you feel like you're watching a film from the 1940s. So episode 1 pretty much served as a great way for letting people know that this is a Star Wars anime, and now we move on to episode 2, Tatooine Rhapsody. Now, if you're into music, you might like this episode, as it pretty much follows a rock band touring the galaxy who also has a small problem with Jabba the Hutt. And for the majority of it, this episode pretty much serves as a rock concert where you get a lot of cameos and references from the Star Wars saga, like Boba Fett, Jabba the Hutt, and a lot of recognizable places from Tatooine. Now, as someone who loves listening to J-rock and J-pop, this episode pretty much was upbeat and put me in a happy mood. But if you're only watching this series for most of the action, you may be a bit disappointed. Which brings me to episode 3, which pretty much sold me on this whole series after I watched that first trailer, and that would be The Twins. Now, one of the reasons why I love this particular episode is how it plays with the idea of twins being raised by the dark side until one of them turns to the light. And that is where we get to see the best brother versus sister battle we've seen on screen that pretty much rocks the whole series. Don't even get me started with that lightsaber battle. Here we go, Mom. Time to lock up your china because the twins are at it again. So yeah, I really loved that particular episode, as it makes you wonder, this could have been Luke and Leia had Darth Vader had raised them. And now we move on to episode 4, The Village Bride, which is actually one of the most talked about episodes of the series. With good reason, because visually this episode is drawn beautifully and the music is so breathtaking as you hear this mesmerizing set of vocals play throughout the episode. But aside from that, this episode is a slow burn where pretty much 90% of the episode focuses on the scenery and customs of a mountain village, where the final few minutes actually has some decent action. So even though the pacing is pretty slow, the music and art are what makes this episode very special, telling us a beautiful story of love and honor. Now, as much as I love that episode, episode 5 pretty much summarizes the reason why I love Star Wars so much, and that would be the Ninth Jedi. So one of the reasons why I love this episode is how it really focuses on lightsabers and how they're the sole element in not just the Jedi, but the entire Star Wars franchise. And this episode pulls out all the stops as you follow the daughter of a lightsaber smith who goes on a hero's journey that takes place in a war between the Jedi and Sith. So this episode not only delivers on the action, but there are several twists on this crazy journey that just leave you surprised. And I really like how this episode dives into the mythology of lightsabers and how they're connected with the Force when they are being held by a Jedi. So overall, I really love that episode. Now let's talk about episode 6, TOB1, or Toby for short. Now this particular episode goes for a more childlike art style as we follow a young robot boy who's built by a scientist and loves the idea of becoming a Jedi. And now that I think about it, this story is pretty much Pinocchio, and you know what? I really liked it. It captures the same imagination that we all had when we were kids when we saw Star Wars for the first time and wanted to be the Jedi Knight of our own story. It's the reason why I love dressing up and buying lightsabers, because I like the idea of being a Jedi in a galaxy far, far away. One thing to know about this episode in particular is that it really is meant for kids as you follow this young droid's journey into becoming a Jedi Knight. But even though it has a childlike nature to it, I still enjoy this episode. Okay, on to episode 7, The Elder. So this is an episode that I was very excited to see as it focuses on two Jedi following a disturbance in the Force that is centered around an elderly old man who not only steals the whole show, but it's actually the best villain in the entire series in general. As he should, because not only does it bring a sense of fear when you look at his character design, but he really is the definition of never judge a book by its cover. If you thought Palpatine was scary in Revenge of the Sith, you clearly haven't met this guy, and when he takes out his lightsabers, the stakes have never been so high. So yeah, I really loved episode 7 as it brings a sense of horror, but also mystery to it because I really want to know where this guy came from. With that being said, let's talk about episode 8, Lo Pinocho. That sounds like a Mexican cuisine. Now this episode took me by surprise as it focuses on a young bunny girl who was adopted into a shogun family when the Empire takes over their planet. Fast forward several years later and the Empire has torn this family apart from the inside, where several members have chosen their side, and Lope, our main character, is trying to save her family from the Empire. And what I love about this episode is how it really does show you that the connection between a parent and child is not just in blood, but in bond as well. And this leads to a big fight where you see how war can also tear a family apart when you simply draw a line on the ground and you see where everyone stands. Here we go, Mom, time to lock up your china because the girls are at it again. Seriously, I did not expect the Bunny Girl episode to leave a huge impact on me as it focuses on family turmoil and picking up the pieces after the damage has been done. So saying that I loved this episode would be an understatement. And with that being said, we now move on to the final episode of season 1, Akikata, and if I'm gonna be honest, this was the one episode that I did not like. Without giving away too much, I will say the episode focuses on a young Jedi who returns to save his forbidden love before going on a very long journey that kind of drags out a little before ultimately leading you to a horrible ending. Honestly, I feel like this series should have had this episode somewhere in the middle of the season because after everything you've watched, after all the great episodes, by having it end on a very down note, you feel like the season just tripped at the finish line. But with only one bad episode and the remaining 8 pretty good, I'd say the series is a hit. Now for me, out of all the episodes I watched in season 1, my top 3 in no particular order are The Twins, Lo Pinocho, and The Ninth Jedi. Just so you know, I watched this in sub because I think that Japanese voice actors are phenomenal because they put 110% of their effort into their work and it can clearly be heard and seen on the screen. So overall, I really loved this series, and looking back at season 1, I wouldn't be surprised if Disney decides to make a season 2 given that they follow the same formula by having several anime studios come together, work on their own individual projects, and have full free range of whatever they can do in terms of creativity. Fingers crossed that they get a studio like Aniplex to work on an episode. Lords of Disney and Aniplex, please come together to work on a Star Wars anime episode and I will be a good weep. I also wouldn't be surprised if we get several manga spin-offs from these episodes. Now those I would buy in a heartbeat because I really want to know what happens to some of these stories. So if you're a longtime Star Wars fan looking to see a different take on the franchise, or if you're someone who's just getting into anime right now, you should definitely check out this series. Well, that's gonna do it for this video, guys. That was my overall review for Star Wars Visions. If you like what you saw, click the subscribe button so you can get all the latest updates from this channel. I'll see you next time with a brand new video, and may the Force be with you.